What is in Zoom chat?
Recording is on. In the Zoom chat, I pasted a link to the agenda doc for today's meeting.
I don't see it. I'm not sure if
Okay,
I'm the only one.
You might not be able to see it if you joined after I pasted it, so I'll paste it again. Okay,
Thanks.
see it now?
Yeah.
Okay, excellent. All right, so first, quick go over the test grid as always. So I don't believe I can share my screen because Linux for various reasons. So I'll just kind of go over them. If people want to follow along on their own machines, that would be great. We still have the ingress upgrade and downgrade failing. And I did take a quick look at those, but it wasn't immediately clear to me why those are failing. I think, was it Bowie who had... who was going to check those out in the past? I could have that wrong. All right, well, if not, if nobody else is set to own those, we will punt those.
There we go.
Okay,
hello?
Much better. How's it going?
All right. Yes.
This is the first time I'm seeing these errors, so I need to look into it.
Okay.
Yeah, they didn't look like they were the same ones as a while back. And it's only a couple of them. But it's odd to me that both upgrade and downgrade seem to be failing with more or less the same sort of errors. It's the L7 controller failed to delete all cloud resources on time.
Okay, we'll take a look.
Okay. Cool, thanks. Okay, so the two ingress ones, IPVS is failing. As well, the GC IPVS tests, and it looks like those are actually probably more severe and that we probably need to investigate those failures and perhaps fix those in the IPVS backend.
Yeah, we are aware of those and we're in the process of fixing them. Okay.
Cool. All right, and let's see here. GCI GCE serial. And that's like, there's a couple of those tests failing. One that has consistently failed is services should work after restarting the API server.
Okay.
Is anybody up for owning that one?
Which one is this?
GCI GCE serial.
And then it's a upgrade.
It runs like tests. Oh, DNS config mount federation services.
Okay, I will take a look because it relates to DNS.
Okay, awesome. Seems like you guys have taken all of them so far.
Well, if anyone from Huawei look at the IPVS, because I know they're directly working on that.
Yeah. Also, if nobody from Huawei or who owns the IPVS stuff from Huawei is on, maybe we should send an email to the list, seeing if they could look into those as well.
Hello.
Hi.
The Huawei team is on call.
Okay.
And I can take a look at it.
Okay, that would be great. And let's see, we've got the Calico tests failing still. I think you were going to look at those, Dane. Is that correct from last week?
Yes. So I've been looking at failures that all the failures that have kubadmin in the name. So we got one fix merged and it unblocked a bunch of tests, but there's a secondary problem now with some of the remaining tests, and it seems that the pull jobs work, and those are tests that are run before the merge on each PR, but the post-merge jobs, the CI or periodic jobs are failing. And what it looks like is happening is that for each job there's a prerequisite build job that's done first, and then the test job follows. And it looks like the build job is building everything and putting it in one bucket on Google Storage. But then when the test runs, it's pulling from a different bucket. It's pulling from CI latest instead of from the results of the previous build. So so I talked about that with Test Infra, and they I showed them a line in the kubeadmin E2E Python script for the scenario, and they said, yeah, it looks just like this test is very confused. So so I'm going to try to come up. Should just be a few lines of change in this scenario.
Okay, excellent. Does that also hold true for the core DNS stuff, or is that a different issue? It looks like most of those end up being green, but
yeah, I looked at one of the core DNS failures, and it looks like it looks at the same. It's got the same signature.
okay,
It's right when it's trying to pull all the Debian packages down, it finds an empty directory. It's just looking in the wrong spot.
okay.
Looking at an empty bucket.
All right, and that's it for the test grid. Those are all the ones that are marked as failing. So sounds good. It looks like we've got owners for all of those. So next up, service topology proposal. Take it away.
Yeah.
So I love the topic and I love the proposal, and it keeps coming up in various conversations that I have. I'm still not sure that it's the right thing to do to put it inside service. We had an internal meeting here just this morning about a different topic, and this sort of came up, and we were trying to sketch out some possible ways that we could build some alignment between this topic and Istio and some of the multi-cluster work and some of the possible ways of rebooting ingress that are sort of circling each other. I'm hoping to write a little bit about the possible ideas and share that probably early next week. Unfortunately, that means that the proposal just has to sit on hold until we get something written up.
Okay. Hi, hello. Can I tell you the new idea about the service policy that separate service and service from topology, or just hold it?
Okay.
Okay, so idea is very simple. Just add a new service policy type. Service policy type is optional, just like network policy and just like a network policy. Okay. And it can carry information like how to subnet a service or topological preference. Okay, you mentioned the Istio, and Istio can convert that into native types, or even consume that API directly if we make it flexible enough. And obviously, it's cast admin on the way, and the cast administrator can configure that what the services are local and what topological they prefer via service policy. Service policy is namespace scope resource, and it's strict optional. We can configure policy other than topological reference in service policy, but the proposal will not cover them. And the main files in the service policy spec are two fields. One is the service selector to select the service, and the other one is topology. Okay, that's all.
So I like the direction actually aligns pretty well with what we were talking about just this morning. So I'm going to try to write this up, and there's a couple things that I don't think I understand quite yet about how it might work that I need to just kind of bend my brain on. I will have the proposal out. Hopefully, I'll commit to getting it out by mid next week. The yeah, anyway, look for the details there because I think that at least one of the options on the table is more or less what you described. But I think we've got a few more details that make it even more palatable for the other use cases that are in very similar scope.
Oh, okay. I have updated the proposal in the original PR in Kubernetes community. And since I have not attended the meeting you mentioned, so could you put your comment on the PR so we can continue the conversation.
All right, I will comment on the PR. I'm probably going to have to write something new because I don't want to hijack your doc, and there's a bunch of other topics that need to be covered sort of in the same discussion. So I'll comment on your proposal and link it off to the separate discussion, and then we can figure out how to refold those together.
Okay, thank you. I have no questions. Thank you.
All right. Any other comments on that? All right. Let's move on to kubelet CNI daemon set.
I haven't had any time to spend on that in the last 2 weeks, 3
I
weeks.
noticed
4
you
weeks.
had a bunch of comments on the original doc there, at least.
Yeah, there's a flurry of comments. The more I thought about it, I mean, I still like the idea. I realized it's probably more complicated than I initially thought. And I haven't had time to circle back to that in the last couple of weeks.
Okay. Yeah, I took a look at it too. I feel like there's still some unanswered questions around. I think you had also mentioned, Tim, discovery, things like that. That, I mean, if you look at the existing kubelet driver, this kubelet CNI driver code, a lot of it is built around, like how do we find the network file for the plugin, how do we figure out whether it's ready, that kind of thing. And all that stuff, if it got moved to like even a gRPC interface, all that stuff would still have to be somewhere, because that functionality still needs to be there. Discovery needs to be there. You still kind of need to ping the plugins.
So there's a little bit of work that we can piggyback on with the storage and GPUs/device plugins.
Mm-hmm.
They're working on a joint proposal for plugin discovery, registration, and handshake, so that they can use the same system across both of those plugins. And I asked them to keep in mind that if networking were to follow suit, whatever they design should probably be appropriate for networking too.
Okay, that's good to know.
Yes, I think it would be a nice work if we can reflect the Kubernetes, because Kubernetes is doing so many low-level things. Hello, Liang Wei, I think you are there. Hello, Liang Wei?
Yeah, I'm here. Hey.
Just go ahead.
Yeah, I think as Dujun said, we can move some low-level things or proxy and move those things to this demo set or CNI plugin, and then we can make a proxy and this and CNI much closer, as we always said in that topic of combining CNI and service. And I think this thing that move Kubernetes CNI build models to a demo set process is it's the first step to do that work. Yeah, that's my point.
Okay. One thing I think I wanted to see a little bit more of was what some of the integration points between CNI specifically and kubeproxy might be. I think there were some comments in the doc around kubeproxy might want to know what the interfaces are for a given pod, or like the address citers and things like that. So fleshing that out would be interesting to me.
Yeah.
I mean, as far as I know, and Tim, you probably have a much deeper historical knowledge of kubeproxy, but kubeproxy tries to be fairly generic, and that does mean that a lot of like the configuration options sometimes have to be duplicated, and sent both to kubelet and to kubeproxy for some things.
Exactly. And there's the biggest ones that jump to mind are things like we pass in the cluster slider, and the only reason we pass it in to kubeproxy is so that we can do a NAT in one particular case, and most people end up not passing it in, so they get a warning in their logs, and then I get people filing bugs all the time saying, how come I'm seeing this log message? And in reality, what it wants to know is this traffic coming from the same machine or not? And it's like, there are better ways of knowing that, but IP tables makes it very difficult to express without spelling out the name of the network interfaces, right? Or the bridge or something like that.
Is that something that the IPVS implementation also needs? Or, if IPVS is sort of determined to be the future of kubeproxy, I'm not sure who makes that decision, but how does that change this?
That's a good question. I don't know the answer to that.
Okay.
Okay. Let me try to answer it. IPVS mode wanted to know the virtual NIC information to fix the node port problems. He wanted to exclude the IPs that that is on the virtual NICs. So if kubeproxy and CNI can exchange these information, they can do it better without some hack way.
Is there a way perhaps to make kubeproxy a little bit more flexible, and give it some kind of RPC or something like that, where the CNI or whatever the network plugin is could give that information to kubeproxy, or maybe some other way to hook those two in with each other?
I could see some flexibility coming in the form of like flags or dynamic config even. I would be wary of anything that was real time like RPC.
Okay.
I think the coupling there would be dangerous. But I think, like we've talked about having a flag to kubeproxy that was, give me the name of the prefix that your CNI driver is going to use for its virtual interface. But even that is a level of coupling that is sort of weird, because I can't actually guarantee that whatever CNI driver you're using is going to handle interfaces in the same way. And so it didn't seem palatable to me. In fact, I think this idea overall came out of that discussion.
Okay.
So yeah, it's possible. It's just software.
Right. I mean, it almost sounds though like kubeproxy wants to or could consume the result of the network plugins add in some way. But currently we don't store any of that information, or in fact in Kubernetes kubelet, we just throw that away completely.
Yeah, I mean, the problem is that these things are really arm's length from each other, right? kubeproxy can't rely on CNI because it can at least ostensibly work in driver modes that aren't CNI. And I mean, other runtimes have modes that are not CNI, right? And so it can't really know anything about CNI, and CNI doesn't really want to know anything about kubeproxy because it's just an abstract specification that runs on, say, Mesos and doesn't know anything about kubeproxy.
I mean, I guess what I'm saying is that, it seems like it might be another case for storing whatever network result, whether that's a CNI result or something else, storing that somewhere in the Kube API that other things that want to use it, like kubeproxy, might be able to get at it.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Maybe, yeah. I don't see anything immediately wrong with that. I would need to think about the details.
Anybody else have thoughts, or is like the action item on this to just have people go take a look at that document and comment on it and then circle back around to the next meeting?
Okay.
Yeah, I think the unfortunate truth is we're entering the code slush now, so about to be buried in PRs. Actually, that's a lie. I am buried in PRs. I apologize to everybody who's been delayed in my queue. I'm working on it. So next 2 weeks from now might be fast.
Okay, well, I mean, we could at least have people, comment on the doc and
cycle
just
anyway.
bring it up.
Sure, that's fair. There's no reason to delay. I'm just wary of making a commitment on my own time between now and 2 weeks.
Sure. Okay. Well, and that actually, let's jump around in the agenda doc really quick. Is there anything we can do to reduce the load that you have, Tim?
We've had some people adding themselves to owners, which is good. More and more of the PRs that I look at are already LGTM by the time I get there, which is great. It saves me a fair amount of work. I'm still finding some amount of comments that feel like they should have been handled. I don't mean this in any snooty sort of sense, but it would be great if PRs were reviewed before they got to me because I'm so constrained right now.
So is it that you'd rather have people review the PRs for code correctness and all that kind of stuff and functional correctness, and then you really just want to wield the approve hammer?
Yes, I will. I like to look at things also, but it's nice if a lot of the initial comments are done. Concretely, I'll call out Rohit here, help me out a ton because I didn't have time to review the IPVS PRs in great detail, and he jumped on and had a bunch of really useful comments that made the PRs way easier for me to review when I got to them.
Okay. Is it possible maybe to add more people to reviewers on things?
So
reviewers and approvers for some stuff.
So I'm happy to, I think adding more people to reviewers is a no-brainer. I think the only reason not to review things, for anybody on the SIG is because of time. Anybody should feel free to review any PR that's coming through our SIG, honestly.
I have a question also just specific for this release. Do you know what outstanding PRs are out there that need to be reviewed for 110 that aren't getting attention?
I have 2 outstanding IP tables kube proxy PRs, and then a third that I haven't filed yet because it conflicts with both of the first 2. So I originally had been waiting for those to get merged, but one of those was filed before KubeCon and is still sort of in limbo.
Dan, ping me can you send me email? Email directly to my Google account instead of through GitHub will get priority, and then I will pop those to the top of the list. I've got about 49 in my queue as of this morning.
Okay. To what extent should we resort to bugging you? I've tried to avoid pinging you too often in the bug and not on Slack.
So the problem is if you ping me in the bug, I probably won't even see it because a lot of the GitHub is just lost. I have a cycle during which I open up my PRs and unfortunately GitHub just doesn't show me hey, this one was most recently commented on. It just shows me them in creation order. And my email is absolutely hopeless. So GitHub is just sort of lost in there. So I have no signal of sort of urgency or neglectedness. So if you email me and you say, hey, this PR has been neglected, I will definitely make priority for it. And people should not be shy about that. Slack is okay, although it's too easy for me somehow to clear a Slack notification and then not realize that I cleared it and then lose it. I feel like a Luddite, I can't figure out how to use a computer, but don't feel shy about pinging me, especially if it's neglected for literally months.
Okay.
It kind of brings up the question, though, how do we parallelize you, or how do we kind of distribute some of that approval responsibility to people you trust, if that's possible?
So there are a small number of people who are ostensibly owning things like kubeproxy. Dan, you're on the list.
I'm reviewer, but not approver, as a matter of fact.
Okay, but if you send me PRs that are reviewed by you and LGTM by you, I'm probably going to give them a much thinner review than I would if they're not LGTM at all.
Okay, fair enough.
Concretely, right? And if there's other people who want and who we think should be reviewing kube proxy PRs overall, I'm happy to promote those things. All the Huawei guys are in the owners for the IPVS side of things. There's been a relatively small number of people who contributed to the IP table side of things, but I'm happy to expand that list. I feel bad nominating people for it because it feels like I'm signing them up for work with very little advantage. But if people are willing to do it, I would love that.
All right, that sounds good. All right, if there are no more comments on that PR stuff.
Oh, jeez. We have a fire alarm. All right, well, sorry.
May I have your attention, please? May I have your...
All right. So given that, let's move on, and maybe they'll be back soon, to the Kube Scheduler support for managing nodes, available IP addresses.
Hello? Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So hi, I'm Li Wen here from Amazon EKS team. Here I would like to present to present a proposal to solve one of the problem we have. And in the meantime, I want to see whether this problem maybe happened before, to see how people solve similar problem. So to give a little background on this problem is, back in the last November, the reInvent, we introduced the AWS VPC CNI. So basically, we give the VPC native IP address to pod. So pod will become the first class citizen on the cloud. But one of the problem we have is basically, so it depends on the node type where the pod gets scheduled. Each node has a limited number of IP address. Say, for example, if you have a T2 medium, you may only can have maximum of 15 IP address. So today, the scheduler is not aware of this particular constraint. So the scheduler can continue to schedule a pod onto a node, can maybe like 40 or 50 onto a T2 medium, while the node itself cannot support that many pods. So that's the problem. So the proposal here is basically we want to use the Kubernetes extended resource to basically specify for any pod. We'll specify a extended resource which we create. We call something like VPC Amazon AWS.com/v4 IPv4. You're using one IP address for this pod, and basically, like the scheduled, use this information to schedule the pod to the node. So here is basically an overview of the workflow. So as you see here is basically to solve this problem, we introduce a new component called ENI IP controller. What it does is it basically watch the node object. So whenever when the node a new node joins the cluster, we get notified. And today, based on the number of the node type, the instance type, we basically program the API server to say for this particular node, it has whatever number of available IPv4 resources. So this way, the API server will know the number of IP address for the node. And then later on, when there's a pod need to, an actor, program say I need to add a new pod, and then the scheduler is adding, the scheduler knows, okay, this node has 15 IP address, and it scheduled the pod onto this node. and then he will reduce the number of available IP address to 14. So this is basically the overall of the solution. Any questions?
Just to clarify, that the number of IP addresses that the node is given can't change, right? It's not like you could assign another subnet or another set of node IP addresses to that node when it reaches capacity, correct?
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Because we use we are relying on using the secondary IP and ENI, and that resources is there's a maximum limit, depends on what kind of instance type it is. So if you have a large one, you can have if you have a C4X large, I do not know the exact number, but there's a website, there's a table will show you the large instance will have a lot more IP address versus the smaller one. I know T2 median is basically you can have 3 interface and each one can have 5 address. It's like 15 address maximum.
I feel like I can see how a number of different plugins, I mean, even ones like the default KubeNet plugin could run out of IP addresses as well. So I can see how there could be a general need or use for IP addresses as a resource on a node level. But I know that not all network plugins are going to work like that, and some will be able to dynamically add more addresses to the node once the node runs out.
Right.
So.
And then also I heard people say if you have a small subnet on even on GKE, if your subnet is small, you may run out of if you have a /30, give an example, you only have 4 available IP, and if you schedule more part onto it, you'll run out of IP address as well. So that's why my question is, yes, I'm sure people probably at the CNI have seen this problem before. I'm just curious how they solve their problem. And here's our proposal, and so what's the next step? Should we generalize to make it a general purpose network resource?
That is a good question. Does anybody else have thoughts on whether they've encountered the problem before due to their IPAM scheme? I know in at least OpenShift land, we currently allocate a certain subnet to a node, but when the node gets to that point, we don't do anything special or specific around stopping pods from being scheduled on that particular node. You're expected to size correctly. Well, if nobody else has comments on this call, if you want to make more comments and read the proposal a little bit more, the issue is linked in the agenda doc, so please take a look at that. Thanks.
Okay.
And yeah, let's see if there are more comments on the agenda. If you have more changes based on those comments, please update the issue, and then we can circle back around to this proposal the next meeting.
Sure.
Okay, thanks. All right, Core DNS.
Yes, here's Francois for Core DNS. So my issue right now, so we are ready for Core DNS to go beta. That needs this PR that is linked here on the document has to be checked in. It is ready since 1 month. Last meeting, I asked Bowie, said he will dive into. He did, and thankfully that helped, and we address his comment and re-upload some change on this PR. But since 1 week, there's nothing happening. And I am fearing now we are in code slush and the code freezes on Monday. I would like first this PR is flagged for V110. The issue is all the thing are, but not the PR itself. I don't know how it works really, but who can flag this PR V110 so it has visibility to be maybe some priority to go for V110 for approval. And then I need another review. So unfortunately, I understand that Bowie had an alarm. So it cannot. The thing is, I feel to be very unable to push that PR. I don't know how to make it going ahead.
Yeah, so I did just add the V110 milestone.
Oh, thank you.
Hopefully that is all that's required to get that on certain lists. Yeah, if people need milestones, there's a couple of people on SIG Network who can do that. I know I can. I'm pretty sure Casey can, and a couple other people. So we can make that happen. The rest of the process is going to be that, again, like with the kubeproxy stuff, when you see the comments around need approval from an approver of each of these files, GoDeps owners and vendor owners, somehow we need to, or you need to harass those people that are listed there and try to get those approvers.
Okay, so what I will do, because yes, there is a vendorization in the middle, so there is someone else. I will remove, this morning I had Tim. So I don't know what to do, he's owner, so I put him, but I will remove him, I don't need him. Very simple PR. I guess I will reping Bowie as possible.
Yeah, I mean, you can leave Tim on the review too. Maybe he'll get to it. But I'd say ping Bowie on that one. And if he is not able to review stuff or approve stuff for vendor and GoDeps, then he would know somebody who can.
Okay. All right. Thank you at least for that. And I hope that will go ahead.
Yeah, no problem. And also, I think anybody else can take a look at that and do a looks good to me on it, which Tim, of course, just said helps him. So,
okay. There is one guy approved already and said we just need the LGTM, I understand.
Yep. Yeah. So the way it works is that the more directories you touch, the more people that you need to approve stuff. So Timothy St. Clair approved the changes to command kubeadmin, but the changes to GoDeps and vendor need other approvers, which apparently Timothy is not one of those.
Okay.
So. All right. Hopefully that will, ping Bowie on that one and see.
All
if
right.
Yep.
Thank you. Another thing I wanted to say, I saw that for the integration test, so kubeadmin, there is one red for core DNS. So depending what it is, but I see that there are two tests that are really DNS side I will look into. Then you said it will be similar to CNI Calico, but I'm not sure for these two. So I will dive into these two. All right.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, and coordinate with Dane since he knows, or at least he has looked into those a little bit, those two tests.
Okay.
All right, we've reached the end of our agenda. So is there anything else that people want to bring up? If not, we'll end the meeting early. Thank you, everybody. See you again in 2 weeks, which would put the next meeting at March 8th.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
All right, bye.
Bye.